Hello, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. So, I'd like to start off this week by acknowledging that the land known as Canada, the traditional and unceded territory of diverse Indigenous peoples, including First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities who have stewarded these lands since time immemorial. We honor their enduring connections to the land and recognize the harms of colonialism. And also, they want their land back or a whole bunch of money. All right, we will get into another land claim in just a few minutes, but first I want to go through the national statistics just released by CREA this week. And yeah, of course, give my take and their take. They're very positive now. Optimists, CREA here, I give them credit. People call me a pessimist, so I got to give credit on the other side here. National statistics, here's what they have to say. Their headline, I'm just going to read a few headlines, starting with CREA's. Momentum continues as Canadian home sales rise in October. It's great. The market is great. Yeah, no worries here, folks. Let's see what the other news outlets had to say when given this data here. From CBC, annual home sales fall in October as CREA expects lower rates to boost market in 2026. Westside Vancouver homes selling far below asking price, with some discounted by millions. Now, that one was published on November 16th, so it wasn't a direct response to the CREA stats. From Yahoo Finance, home sales and prices edged up in October, but still down year over year. CREA. From CTV News, October home sales down from last year, but more activity expected in 2026. CREA. Toronto Star, October home sales down from last year, but more activity expected in 2026. CREA, I think they have the same writers there. All right, now here are the statistics. I'm going to present them to you the way I see them, and I'm going to try to be fair. I know I'm a little biased. I want the price to go down and whatnot. But anyway, let's look here what we have. So this is the total sales just for the months of October. And you can see it was a fairly normal October in 2025. Not if you're going to take into consideration the population growth, per capita sales, but we're not going to get into that. We're just talking about historic sales back to 2007. So it was fairly average. I think it was just over 40 or 40,500, and we were just over 40,000 sales. So not a bad October. And I'm telling you, I'm in the business, and yeah, it seemed normal. It didn't seem like, with the amount of sales anyway, prices. Sellers are getting beat up, lots of lowball offers, but market's still chugging along. And here is the months of supply. And again, we see it with every other month. The months of supply, it is the same now as October 2019. These are all the Octobers again for months of supply. 4.4 months right now. And yeah, it's higher than any one since 2019. So, and you see it's making new highs this year over the last 5 years, 6 years or so. Now, here is all months of sales now from going back to 2007. And you can see it looks like an average month, October. So, yeah, not bad. Average month market isn't cracking in half just yet. And months of supply here is continuing with the same trend that we've seen all year since the beginning of the year. It is higher. Our lows are higher or just the same as the highs from the previous few years. So this months of supply is being maintained, which is a good thing. It wasn't a temporary thing. And hopefully we're going to see new highs into next year again. And yeah, we're going to keep seeing that supply increase. Here's the sales to new listings ratio. I believe it was about 52 or just over 52%. So a balanced market nationwide. Of course, Ontario is a buyer's market, and East Coast is a seller's market. But overall, it is a balanced market in Canada at 52%. And again, all the reds there are the Octobers going back as far as the data shows. And yeah, it's on the lower end for October, but regardless, it's still, like I said, chugging along pretty good. And here is the national average sale price. So it is currently $690,195 for October 2025. Way too expensive, obviously, if you ask anybody, but this is where we're at. It is up 2.1% month over month from September to October, or $14,000, down 1.1% year over year, or $8,000, and down 15.3% from the peak, which was February 2022 nationally at $125,000. Now, mind you, we still have many places making new highs in Canada, so this is an average of all places, winners and losers. And looking at our bearish pennant, so we did just break through the bottom to the downside, but it recovered back up because of October. But we're still in that bearish pennant format. or should I say pattern. But I've also noticed one other thing here, and I'll add it right in here. It's also a symmetrical triangle at this point. And what's happening? It's consolidation and confusion. So what's happening? The buyers and the sellers, the bears and the bulls, they are competing against each other. Nobody's winning. We've been trading sideways for years now, but it is consolidating, and we're coming to this head where it's going to go one way or another. And given the state of the economy and historical trends, you know which way I think it's going to go. Some will tell you based off of a good feeling that it's going to go up. That's not what the data says, though. One thing I wanted to point out, I did share this on my X this week, was the year-over-year price change for each month this year. And there's been 10 months so far up to October that have been reported. And 6 of those 10 have been negative year over year, and 4 have been positive. If you look at the positives, they're not very great at all. 1.8% is the highest. Meanwhile, we've had 4.2% losses there in April. So just keeping an eye out, because you go month to month and you hear different news and you say, well, real estate's up. Well, let's look at the whole year, and it is down significantly more than it has been up this year. So this is an accurate reflection of the overall market in Canada right now. And we'll continue to watch this stat also. Lastly, here we have the average mortgage payment versus the average rent price. And right now it is $3,093. It is the lowest it has been since Q3 2022, which wasn't great. We still had really high prices and interest rates were going up at that point. So yeah, we need to get way back. We need to get back to like 2020 affordability, which is going to take both interest rates and home prices coming down. Now, interest rates, they might go down a little bit more, but that's not going to bring affordability back. It's prices coming down or building houses more affordable. Whatever the plan is, that's what's going to make affordability. And the average rent price in Canada, according to rentals.ca, is $2,105, and it is declining a little bit also. So still $1,000 difference between those two. Now, a lot of people call me out and they say, well, the average rent price in Canada, it only shows 3 bedrooms and whatnot. So I did a comparison with just the GTA data for a 3-bedroom house. Let me show it to you here on X. All right, so what I did was I compared the median rent price of an entire house. There is a checkbox now on MLS to check entire house, so you're not getting those main floors or basements or whatever it is. They split houses into all these different parts now. But anyway, an entire house, 3-bedroom, detached in the GTA, comparing it to buying the same house. And buying the same house was $975,000, and then I input 10% down or whatever else. Let's go through this here. It costs 50% more to own a 3-bedroom detached in the GTA than it does to rent one. And this doesn't even include your down payment, well over $100,000. So it's just under 100, but by the time you put land transfer tax and closing costs, you're well over 100,000. $3,500 per month to rent the median house, an entire 3-bedroom house, and $5,266 per month median sale price at $985. And 10% down, plus, 4% rate, and $5,500 a year in property taxes, which is kind of the average. I checked it out there. So it is substantially more money to own a 3-bedroom house, even in the GTA, comparing apples to apples, than it is to rent one. And if you go back to that numbers there, it was $3,100, just under $3,100 to own the average house in Canada, and just over $2,105 to rent. And again, that's 50% more. So it holds true. It doesn't matter where you look. It is substantially more money to own a house than it is to rent, and that gap it's way too big. Like, it's just such an easy decision. $100,000 and you get to pay more money, or nothing and you get to pay less money. It's for now, it's an easy decision if you ask me. All right, let's get into the serious stuff here. Another land claim. This one's actually old. This is 1995 or 1996 it was started, but it is going. The trial is starting in January, I think it is, 2026. So this is like 30 years in the making, but it's finally going to trial. And Rashazi here says, Realtor of Ontario, help me out. Do you need to put a disclaimer when you list a property in this zone that the title may revert to First Nations depending on the outcome of ongoing litigation? And there's this big patch right there. It's up the Grand River. Now, I did a little research into this, and they're claiming that there was some fraud by the government, and that there was no treaty, or there was no formal agreement that the government's saying that there was. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the details. I don't really know them too well, but it's not just about the land, it's about the money. So they are going to say, well, you guys didn't honor and defrauded us. You didn't honor your agreement. You defrauded us. And we want, I guess, either the land or money. What they really want is the money, from what I can see. And it's a lot of money. But regardless, look what happened in Richmond, BC. In Richmond, banks won't finance these things anymore. So there's a stigma on these properties because you have ongoing legal disputes, just like a condo corporation. The number one thing we ask, or we look for, I should say, when we're reviewing a sale of a condo for our buyers, and the lawyers do this too, is are there any big lawsuits in this corporation or in this building, whatever the case is, townhouses, building, a condo corporation? Are there any big lawsuits? Because if there are, like, we want to know what the details are, and we probably won't want to buy that unit. And the banks are doing the same when it comes to these, like the ongoing litigation on the title of your property. No thanks. And you can't. How about title insurance? Like, you can still probably get title insurance because it doesn't cover Indigenous land claims. But yeah, here's this area here, and it goes right out to Lake Erie. And this is the Six Nation Grand River there. It's marked out. And look at what you have in here. You have Brantford, you have Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, like some major cities in here. And they're all included in this. And this is 950,000 acres or something. Like, it's huge. But this isn't the only one in Ontario either. There's one up by Ottawa that's huge too. And again, they're not looking for their land back in Ottawa, from what I read. They want compensation, and yeah, it's getting messy out there. But I would like to thank the Native people of Canada for helping to bring affordability back to the housing market, because this is going to throw a damper on a lot of sales and a lot of prices out there, which is needed. But again, it doesn't take much with inflated prices like this to bring them down. And this is just another nail in the coffin at this point. Yeah, check out this. This is another sign of the times here from the Hamilton Spectator. This is in Hamilton, Ontario. West Mountain Hole, it's supposed to say home, built without permit, sells for $1.3 million after owner defaults on mortgage. So I read this article. Yeah, this flipped back and forth for one. From the owner, he sold it, and then he bought it back, and then he sold it again, or he lost it, to the bank or whoever the lender was at that point. But yeah, so he built this home, and he had no permit. And like the city came in and like, you need a permit anyway. They gave him a permit after it was already built, and he finished it off, or almost finished it off. But anyway, it's sold. So a home with no permit sells for $1.3 million, which is crazy. And he had big fines and all that he had to pay. It's craziness. Like, I don't know. This isn't Costa Rica. You don't just build a house and go get a permit after. And this is what speculation brings you. When builders don't care, they build whatever the hell it is, and anyone's going to buy it because nobody's really going to live in it, or they're not the end user buying. They couldn't care less. This is what you get. Brand new townhouse in Belmont in Calgary. Have fun driving in around that pillar every day. Yeah, look at it. Your garage is literally has a pillar in front of it. Now, somebody said, well, you don't use your garage half the time. Well, I heard in Calgary and Alberta, they do use their garages because there's so much snow. You want your garage, right? So, yeah, look at them. You can't even get in your garage. It's just a storage unit at this point, but you can't call it a garage then. If you can't drive in it, I don't think you should be able to call it a garage. Let me know what you think in the comments. How about in the USA here? What's going on with the U.S. market? This is wild. Immigrants move into suburban Virginia neighborhood, construct a 3-story monstrosity of an addition for 3 generations of family members to live in, nearly encroaching on their neighbor's property line. And people wonder why Americans can't afford homes. So Americans can't afford homes either. Look at this thing. I'm not going to play the sound on it, but they put this addition on, and it's huge, and the neighbors are just like freaking out over it. It's hilarious. But same thing happens in Canada right now. Yeah, look at that thing. It's nuts. Can you imagine living beside it? You're literally going to be in the shadows now. You have no sun on your property. Your plants, your tomatoes, they're not going to grow because you got a freaking monstrosity beside you. Also in the U.S., from Daniel Foch, foreclosures surged 20% as Americans struggle to pay mortgages and fears of 2008-style crash soar. And yeah, there's an article in there. Foreclosures are going up again, part of their cycle too. This is what happens. But don't worry, Canada, we're not affected by the U.S. anymore because we're doing trade with Europe or something now, so Mark Carney says. I'm sure it won't affect us when the American housing market crashes. We'll be just fine. Just like 2008 when we were fine, we'll still be fine. And of course, with Budget 2025, we're building more homes and we're making sure you can afford them. To bring down costs, Canada's government is removing the GST for first-time home buyers on homes up to $1 million. Wow. So instead of spending $1 million on a new home, you can spend 950 or whatever the GST part is. I think it's 50,000 or 5%. So you can spend 950 instead of $1 million on a stacked townhouse. Nice. This is going to be awesome. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.